Live. Thank you. Morena, everybody. Welcome to this Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board meeting for Thursday, the 16th of March. I would just like to, before we open with a karakia, introduce ourselves. I am Belinda Ward, representative of the Paihia Waitangi subdivision area and your chair for today. I'll start on the end with Kim.
My name's Lane Air. I'm with the Kerikeri subdivision and vice chair.
I'm Amy with the Kerikeri subdivision, Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board.
Good morning. I'm Joshna Pandey, and I am the Democracy Services Advisor for today. I'm the meeting administrator for Bay of Islands Community Board.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Councillor Anne Court, and I am the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Ward Councillor appointed to this board.
Good morning. I'm Bruce Mills, and I represent the Whangaroa subdivision.
Kia ora, I'm Tyler Bamber. I'm from the Waipapa subdivision.
Tēnā koutou katoa, Jane Kendall-Whakaringoa. I'm representing the Russell Pororaka and Oakwood subdivision. So, Maramaku and so.
I'm starting to talk about the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa councillor and
Any other staff? We do have Catherine. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the members of the public here. And Rachel, nice to see you back in the room. I will just ask, Roddy, would you like to open us with a karakia this morning, please? Kia ora, Roddy. Right, so we will move straight on to, I haven't received any apologies this morning, but I will start with conflicts of interest. Going around the table, any conflicts of interest in today's meeting? No? I have two perceived conflicts. One, I have a very dear friend of mine, Janine Smith, here presenting today on item 7.4, which is a road naming application. And I also was involved in item 7.6a, one of the funding applications, the Ngāti one on page 89. I was actually on the investments panel with the other community board chairs and staff who made the decision to decline that application and refer it to the community board. So just declaring those perceived interests there. We'll move on to item 3, public forum. And first up, we have Janine Smith. Welcome. This is item 7.4, the road naming on page 50. You have 5 minutes, Jan, so probably stand next to Kelly because we are live streaming. And so if you just stand sideways there so you haven't got your back to anyone, that's great. Thank you.
Yep. I just want to see you on my screen. Can't see her.
Page 50.
First address when I 5% of which consent on the plan of District Council in 2000. My three preferred names were the Retreat Lane, the Retreat Street, the Retreat Close, all three reflecting the retreat which has been operating on the property. I then formally applied for these names in June 2022 and again in September 2000. Three names were declined by Islands this year, February 15, 2023. I wish to make reference to the appendix, the guidelines for choosing a road name application for 7.4. I'm an established theme in the area. 7.2. There is an established theme in the area, the new roads and to reflect this. This private road was actually first formed about 70 years ago and as mentioned previously, private road is for the trees. So I believe that it's very important that our road name reflects this. So due to Lynn's declining our I now have Lynn's approval for Retreat Bay Lane, and Lynn's approval of 9 other names. On reflection, I believe that we not on my name. I wish to make an amendment to the first recommendation of my Retreat Bay Lane could be misconstrued as to there being a bay called two bays either side of my property, to the north, Tihomi, and to the south, Islands-Whangaroa. I know of and had an interest in the local history of the area that shows the Retreat View Lane over a Maori lane of the Farmers District voting administrators did seek consultation with the, and as far as I know, of this meeting, they are not received. This consultation was not. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate no name like all the others. That's all I wish to say. Thank you all for allowing me to.
Thank you, Jan. Any questions for Jan on that preferred recommendation? You'll see on page 50 that the first preference in the recommendation was actually Retreat Bay Lane, and she wishes that to be amended to Retreat View Lane. No questions? Thank you, Jan. We'll make a decision a bit later in the meeting. You're welcome to stay. Thank you. So next we have Sophie and Paul presenting to us for Healthy Families Far North. Kia ora.
And I'm here to talk about.
Excuse me, my apologies interrupting you. You're doing a deputation, so we have given you up to 10 minutes inclusive of questions because there's 2 of you presenting, okay? Thank you.
I am from Healthy Family, and our maki is about reducing chronic. We are here to present an amazing piece of maki that Paul has been leading called the sewing machine, and Paul will do an overview of the maki to date. I'll talk a little bit about the outcomes and what we are seeing from.
So we can go back this time, exactly this time 3 years ago. We had the biggest, probably the biggest impact on our community here in the town. We were just coming up to the first lockdown. You can imagine the world. Auntie Karen, my Louis, from myself, and Phil Gripshot. We were standing outside, queuing outside New York. We have to go in and out of New York and count down on numerous occasions because we could only get two of each item at a time. This was to fill the contacts for our commandment through the Whangaroa region. And when we were standing there, when you look back to that and you think about that surreal, and it just seemed like another world. But the big question that came out of this was, how might we create a secure and sustainable food system for the future generations of Whangaroa? So out of that, we sent out a lot, to give you an overview of it, we sent out questionnaires, we did survey monkeys, we held open days in the OSA file. And we just started getting some insights into how we ended up here, how we ended up with such an insecure food system in a place that was abundant with maritime back in the, as far as just back in the 80s and 90s. So we worked with fauna, and these are just some things that we heard. Play and play. How can, you know, the Maracai was the first classroom for our family, and it was the grandparents and parents who were the first teachers. And this was taught through play, foraging through play, collecting food was play. And then one of the other things was normalising healthy kai. For a lot of our fauna, fresh kai is out of reach. And they've lost, maybe there's certain knowledge has been lost for us all about planting and growing. And then we needed intergenerational spaces where, you know, intergenerational play and just, you know, planting, sowing, just, you know, things with a smile on your face, sticking your fingers and hands to the sun. And then the lost knowledge, and it's about, you know, those little lost things that we've lost about planting to the moon to the Moronic packet. So from there we shifted into a prototype mode. So we got some ideas from our workshops. And we got into a prototype mode and working through different evolutions of what a playground, edible playground would be. So this is when we came up with our edible playground. It was 4 prototypes and one of them playgrounds. We walked around, we talked to people, and we had a picture of, say, hey, you know, Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. And, you know, could you imagine a playground like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory? And they went, yeah. And another picture, you go, how about a healthy one, you know, a healthy one with fresh kai. So that's when we explored the edible playground, and we did it in partnership with the community board. That was 2 years ago, and we had a little space behind the library, and we tried it out. We tested it over 3 or 4 different times, and what whānau in the community were telling us was this wasn't suitable, but there was one little part of this edible playground that everybody automatically went to, and it was the planting table. So we sat down, we talked about this little table that planting. We came up with a new prototype called the sewing machine, SOW. And it's like a little plant packet that's in the playground. And what we did was, with this, we went through 4 iterations of it, and we went out and we tried it, see if Founder would play with it, see what they thought, see if they understood it. That's a great idea. And then we got somebody to draw up some plans, and these plans, we brought them to the Kerry Kerry men's shed and said, could you build this for us? And they built us what we have now in the playground. So this little sewing machine that has a little seed saver box, and the kids can come up and people can bring their little coffee cups, rinse them out, and they can recycle them. Come in, they have a little bit of soil, a little bit of compost, and they sow the little seeds, and it's captured the imagination. There's been highs and there's been a couple of lows, but for the most part, it's put smiles on people's faces, and it's a great addition to our community.
Paul's done an incredible job of describing that journey of the sewing machine. And it's been in place in the Kyle playground for the past 3 months. It went in just before Christmas. And we've been thinking about what are the 3 big outcomes that we're seeing as a result of just those 3 months in the playground. And one of them is that idea of that people are connecting Kai and play. If we all think back to our childhood around what play looks like, and where foraging was involved, we're going out getting puppies with our cousins or foraging for mushrooms with our nana. It was all about that connection of Kai and play, and we're seeing that being revived in the playground and play, and it's amazing. The second thing that we're seeing is that food, Vegetables are being grown and eaten already by the tamariki. And it's amazing. In the first 2 weeks, we saw 96 little seedling pods that had been planted by tamariki. And I know that some of our board members here have been able to utilise that with their children. And some of the things that we've been hearing from parents is, oh, my kids go straight to that thing and just ignore the things. So it has this incredible pull that people are experiencing. The third outcome is that we're seeing a more connected and caring community. Paul has really enabled a community-led approach. So this whole idea has come from community. It's come from whānau and community insights, and the whānau and community have built it and driven it. And they are now taking care of it. And we're seeing that in the donation of seeds. We're seeing it in people coming and watering the plants. And we're seeing it in the tidying of space. Paul's connected in people who are already kaitiaki of Kaiō, and they are coming in and participating in that role of kaitiakitanga. I just wanted to add as well, I forgot to mention, we've now got planter boxes in place. So those seedlings are going into the planter boxes in a flourish. So what does that mean and why are we here talking to you all? We have 3 asks. The first one is we are learning some epic things in Kaiō, and we'd like to continue to learn and evolve this prototype because it still is very much a prototype. So we're asking for the board to allow us to continue to do that mahi in Kaiō. The second thing is through the learning from this work and other pieces of mahi that our team are involved in, there are some core principles that we are seeing surfacing about what it takes to not only connect that idea of kai and play, but what it takes to enable whānau and community-led, and what it takes to leverage the existing infrastructure and resources that exist in our communities. So we would love to get your support to work alongside other communities in the district to explore these ideas. And it might look like more sewing machines, or for a different community, it might look like something else. The third thing that we're asking for is we think this idea of connecting kai and play is a really critical part to our whānau and tamariki being, and that our councils can play a really critical role in enabling that and utilising that existing infrastructure and resources differently. So what we are asking the board is whether you would include this as a strategic priority for your board, the idea of connecting kai and play in public spaces, and that we would love to continue this corridor with you and to work alongside you to explore how we might unlock that potential inside of our community. Ooh, on time! Ngā mihi, kia ora.
Kia ora. Any quick questions? On time, Jane.
Yes, just quickly, I know that in my particular community, the school is very much the hub of the Manu Kai. Also got a community garden out with a boat club. Are you working with those school programs as well?
We're not currently, but I mean, that's not to say that we wouldn't be. Yeah, like the sewing machine in Kaiō has only been there for 3 months, and we still want to continue to evolve what that looks like.
Yeah. So that, as I say, it'd be quite good if you integrated with the programs, you know, to make more of the opportunity.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, when you first moved into this idea, Paul, I thought, bloody wacky. And it wasn't much of a pay and I've been watching some strange and I have been watching it, and I'm so impressed because just the way you can see those kids, just the changes each time you go and have a look at it. Yeah. You can see kids being in there doing their thing. It's still wacky, but it works. And I love it. So yeah, you've certainly got my support. I think it's a great thing combining playground with something practical like that. And yeah, so
Sure, thank you.
Wacky's good. Actually, just good. One of the really good answer was, is there any elements people applied in that?
One of the things that came up when we talked about it was for children was it needed to be visual. And we didn't want to have too much wordiness around it. We have the moon cycles on it, and there's a place called Green Grubs, I think it's called, and they gifted us a children's Maramataka book, which we have there. We don't like, one of the things parents and Fano said to us, they don't want too many words, they'd like to have more pictures. So that's something that's going to evolve. One of our Kaitiaki, Janisa, she is so, she's such a pillar. I'm not going to say a pillar of the community. She's such a champion. And, she's always there, helping and working alongside it. And we work with Garden Ninjas as well. Garden Ninjas is a local kind of gardening group. And they have come along and helped with it. But that is something that we're always trying to explore and we're very, very open to. On a personal level, I don't go and tell them what to do. I want the community to come up with these solutions themselves. And that is there. So yeah, kia ora.
And I think one of the key questions that we have for the next evolution and the next piece of learning that we need to do is how do we embed that more? How do we embed mātauranga more into that? And I mean, that's like a whole another piece of work that we're really keen to explore. So we're also going to be handing out, I think someone has a little poster that we've got that describes that journey of the sewing machine and basically an overview of what we've done.
Thank you. Yes,
I think it's also just trying to normalize and get it from it like they do it. And lots of preschools and gardens now are just making it in town as normal as well. So that it just, because it is just a problem. Foods and it's to be normal to find the see one.
Yeah.
A very quick comment. Charles is now 28 or something. Went through Kirikiri. He grew up in North. And he was exposed to schools, gardening. But it went through the school. And what I find interesting is here's this 28-year-old who's traveled. Sorts of other things. As a garden, he's a garden, and every time I see it, it astounds me. And he has chooks. He's down Wellington, and he grows. And that is a case of a direct outcome. Sure. So I applaud you.
And it feels like there's a really awesome opportunity to expand on that from the school environment to the public spaces.
Thanks, Peter, Stephen and Rachel, and I have been discussing with Rachel. We are going to actually, as a board, have a workshop on this and discuss the potentials and opportunities around it. So we will take that on to another day. So we do a couple of workshops together.
So yeah.
Taking up everybody's time. So we probably will need an hour to do that at some stage. So we'll be in touch and discuss how we can make this a strategic priority and in what way we can work together in a partnership on behalf of the communities that we represent. Okay.
We do have some little seedlings which were planted by the Tamariki at Napurapura.
Just leave them on.
And we'll just leave them here for yourself. I just want to say, Gorev Mila Mahagod, August Lafayla Podrick, son of Judith Morag, which means thank you very much. And a happy St. Patrick's Day for tomorrow.
Right, leave them on. One, we're going to speak to Allianson on behalf of Rotary Kitty Kitties.
Yes, I would
we start. I can't see people, they're depending on the heads, moving glass behind them. Because would you mind moving? I'm really sorry that deputy was back to the audience, but because you get to see.
Right. Okay, am I right here?
You just bear in mind we are live streaming with Dr. is behind you.
Okay. Kiora, good morning. I'm Dawn Morrison. I'm the 41st president of the Kerry Rotary Club. I hold this office until July this year. I have come here today to introduce myself and our next Rotary president, Simon Knight, and update you his current activities for the club. To inform you of the Kerry Rotary's board's desire to continue actively pursuing community projects. To state clearly Kerry Rotary's willingness to collaborate with all community groups. As a Rotary Club, we are fortunate to be supported by our community fundraise primarily with the New World Rotary Garden Safari at the end of October each year for the last 35 years. With the support of the Rotary Foundation and our Rotary District 9910, the Rotary Club of Kerry largely uses the funds raised to support youth in our community. We continue to be well connected in this way. When I took up the role of president with COVID, our community grew next and deteriorated. However, it has improved last month. We are actively collaborating with several very different projects to benefit our project, the 600,000 Rotary all primary schools. This program provides free teacher training and family fun day. It endeavours to provide resilience in young children following the COVID years and encourages children to attend school. Starting for us at Kerry Primary at the end of this month. Each day we will have at least 28 Rotarians helping teachers and staff to provide an afternoon fun for the children to encourage their attendance. Funding of a van, Blue Light Charity, to provide much needed transport for young people at risk. Working with others to create the new program at the sports ground. Upgrading the hospice garden of remembrance. We are also actively looking at a way in which we might provide the community with better knowledge of community events. This is a very expensive exercise, but much needed in our community. Our club will not be supported by our wider Rotary family on this one, and will be seeking funding from different venues. We are endeavouring to work with the Business Association on this. Ultimately, the aim is for it to be sustainable. Thank you again for providing me with the opportunity to introduce myself and Simon, and I hope this leads to better communication and collaboration between the Rotary Club of Kerry and you, the members of the community board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dawn. Any questions for Dawn?
Yes. I really commend you guys. I mean, it's so hard to keep the voluntary groups going. They're following up left, right, and centre. Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
And my kids are in at Kerry Primary and they're starting that program. I think they is it?
Thank you, me. Yes, the 28th and the 29th and 30th of March.
Yeah.
Kat Levine, who is our, she does the presentations. She has some very lovely puppets,
She lives in Auckland, but Kylie Penn has made her puppets. I think Fiery Dragon, Cool Cat and Worry Watchdog. So teaching children about their feelings and how they can encourage their mental well-being, and it's going throughout Northland over the next 2 years. I think Riverview was going to be at the end of the week, but now it is the 26th of May.
Lovely, thank you. Right, moving on, we now have speakers for the funding applications, and first up we have Shane for Te Reo o Ngāti Hine Charitable Trust. This is item 7.6A on page 89. Your agenda.
Tēnā koutou te wari, tēnā tātou katoa. Kai heke tōku ingoa, ko Ngāti Te Tarawa me Te Kauimo Kuhapu, Ngāti Hine Te Iwi. I'm here this morning on behalf of the organising committee for Te Akua Reko Ngāti Hine. It's our biennial iwi festival. We haven't had a festival since 2019 because of COVID. So we're really looking forward to bringing it back this year, bringing home our people over the 31st of March to the 2nd of April at Otiria Marae in Moirua. So it runs from Friday through to Sunday. The first day, the focus is our tamariki, our mokopuna, many schools, kura, kohanga reo, who will be taking the stage to perform their kapahaka. We also have activities and things to keep them immersed. Sorry, also I forgot to mention that each festival has a theme. This year's theme being Waipuna Ora, the wellspring of life, and highlighting the importance of water. So the activities will connect to that theme. Saturday's event, there's a range of entertainment, kapahaka, musicians, debates held entirely in te reo. We have food stalls, entertainment stalls, education stalls, activities, a kaumatu and koia area. And then Sunday is about remembrance, where there'll be a service and acknowledging someone who has contributed to the wellness of Ngāti Hine. So not just the people, but the places that make Ngāti Hine. Yeah. This request would be used toward one of the core expenses, which is the staging, a core focus of the overall festival. Any part-time? Any questions?
Thanks, Shane. Right, questions. You'll find the additional information in your agenda.
Yeah, I have a question.
Jane.
I know the original application wasn't to be events. So the amount was predicated on that fund, which was substantially larger than what we generally have available. If you were unsuccessful in getting the full that impact or events, do you have any answers to who might deal with it?
Yeah, so we have got a number of sponsors who have sponsored things like Fonterra, who are providing the dairy for our kaumatu and koia kai, through to large contributions up to $20,000. And saying that because the staging is a core part of the festival costs, if we had to, we would take funds from other areas of the festival to cover the costs.
So it would make it fall apart completely.
I mean, I suppose every festival we have just made do. You make do with what you have available to you. Any and all contributions help massively to putting on the best we possibly can. Because it's been so long since the last one, we really, working hard to bring that together. All of us are voluntary. There's a core committee of 18, but many more volunteers that come to help put up signage, help with parking, that sort of thing. Sorry, also can I acknowledge Matua Roddy for his due diligence he's taken outside of this week and going to the marae to visually see where things would be placed, and actually reaching out to his division to hear firsthand about the festival. So I just wanted to make it to you too.
Yeah, I just have a question around the station for validated. It's just like I had the unit pricing in a factor of 1.4 next to most things, and I was just wondering then what the sort of factor.
I would have to go back to Baltic to confirm. Yeah,
Just
but
seemed
that's
like an
that.
odd way to
Would you like to point out to Shane what
Oh,
is that
it's-
you're referring to?
So on the Baltic road, they have a unit price, but then that time for the conflict period, but I've got the amount of units here, and they've like added additional.
Sorry, yeah, I have to confirm with Baltic, but yeah, they've been the provider for the staging for sort of it's establishment.
Any other questions from you?
No, sorry, that's.
Yes, Roddy.
So the question is, after all the COVID, all of the storms we've been through, how does this festival play out when it comes to the ahua and wairua of the community and the hapu? How important is it?
So actually the festival named Te Ahua Reka Matini, you would have seen in the supporting information. Te Ahua Reka was one of our rangatira of Ngāti Hine. Reka, you know, to give, I suppose, you know, the sweetness of the people. And I think, you know, good point in COVID and the cyclone, I think not just the people of Ngāti Hine, but the communities need more to celebrate, need more to uplift their wairua and their spirit. And so, you know, that's a core purpose of the festival. It's about celebration. It is about whanaungatanga and bringing people together and connecting them. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question already.
Thanks, Shane. No further questions? Thanks, Shane. You're welcome. We don't have a big agenda today, so if you have time, you're welcome to wait for the decision, or Kim will inform you. Okay. We now have a virtual attendance from Simon Veer for Yellow Eye Limited, which is actually item 7.6D in our funding applications on page 98. We have the matter ready?
Yes. Jane, can you hear us?
Kia ora, Simon.
Kia ora. Yes, I can hear you all well. From the summary Dunedin.
We just can't hear you. If you just bear a moment with us a moment, we'll try and get some sound there. We now have,
Yep. Hello. Check. Test. Hello.
Hi, Shane, we can hear you. Just give me a minute.
Oh, great. You can hear me. Okay, sorry.
The feedback coming from. I think you're good to go now.
Kia ora. Hello.
Yes.
Okay, right. Yeah. So what? I've been working with the Ministry of Arts and Culture for a couple of years now, putting together programs for artists in schools. They run, the artists are touring artists. They go into schools and they run workshops that are participatory in nature. So the idea is to get the kids involved in the performance, which we then try to take into a public forum so the kids can play in the show that the artist puts on at the school, and then it also transfers across into a public domain. And that way we can work with a number of schools. Then the kids who are involved, the performing kids, in this case with the nukes, they're ukulele playing, they're singing, dancing, they're basically performers. they can then meet up with other children of a similar like mind in the public event, and forge local sort of connections, I guess. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. We're trying to make it like annually around certain events. So obviously you have Upsurge Arts Festival every second year. And me and Jerry at the Turner Centre sort of thought, well, this will be quite a good thing to try and kick off this year, and then work in with Upsurge. And then every other year we do a sort of separate thing ourselves, like an independent, get Turner Centre used, and working in with all the schools so they get to know. It's around the same time of year each time. Obviously, it's not going to probably happen this year, obviously, with the way things have gone. But so then they know to book it. They know it's going to be a quality. It's going to be different artists each time. I've got about 6 or 7 that I work with around the country now. And we have actually worked with Upsurge about 4 years ago and ran a really successful Nukes visit through a number of primary schools. So it's for pre-teen children. They're at an age then when they jump in, they get things done, they go for it. And I think it's a really important time in that in their development to try as many things as they can, and this is one of them, I guess.
Thank you, Simon. Any questions for Simon?
Dates, this one's not going ahead, did you say, or?
I'm sorry?
Is this one like in less than was a couple of weeks away, or is this not?
No, okay. So since then we're rescheduling it because the Nukes were coming up for a ukulele festival for an adult event, but that's just been cancelled. And obviously with the delay here, it just doesn't give the schools enough time.
No, yeah.
And me enough time to get in touch with them all and set up connections and things like that. So we're going to reschedule it. We're just trying to work out now what's best. So I will go back. I'm talking now with Jerry and the band to get dates and to get a week, and then I'll go through to the schools. And I'd say it's going to be at least at the maybe end of term 2, but we haven't actually got a date as yet scheduled.
Yes, Simon, we have our funding round ends 30th of June. So depending on what date you set, you may go into our next financial year.
Okay. Sorry, so you're saying it has to be completed by the 30th of June? Is that what you're saying?
No, we would require a date prior to the 30th of June to commit the funds. We have.
Okay, yeah. No, I think we'd probably get it sorted in the next few days.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So you're planning to definitely hold the event between now and the 30th of June?
Not definitely. That's what I'm trying to ascertain from everyone.
Points made, Madam Chair, is we're in a different funding year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then, so when do you meet next? When's your next meeting for?
We meet monthly. We have 3 more meetings until the end of our financial year on the 30th of June.
Okay.
So it might be advisable for you for us to put your application on hold and for you to resubmit your dates once you've confirmed it, so that we know that the event is definitely going to go ahead.
Okay. And then that means we'll need to wait for another month? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So we need another 4 weeks' time.
Yep, okay.
We have your application at hand. It would just be a case of amending those dates prior to the close of our next agenda. But Catherine, our funding lady, can send you those close-off dates if you don't think you're going to be doing anything in the next month.
Okay, so do you think, is it possible to give us an indication if there's things in there that you query or not happy with, and that we can maybe revisit it and redo it, or rather than just leaving it as is and ploughing on ahead? What do you think? Is that something?
I think we need to know, Simon, that the event is definitely planned and going to be going ahead. You only have about a week before the close-off deadline of our next agenda preview, which will be for April. So if you can determine something in the next week, and we'll let that lie on the table.
Yeah, definitely.
We can just let that lie on the table until our next meeting in April.
That sounds fine. Yep. I'll try and sort that out
Okay, you've frozen on us now, but okay, we'll leave that with you to get back to us, or to Catherine, the funding advisor, Catherine Trewin, and within the next week with an update on some dates once you've had a discussion with Jerry and organised it. Thank you for your time. He's frozen, so we'll move on.
Madam Chair, I actually have a question.
Yes.
For Catherine. And it may be that it's, but can you please explain why that's relevant? That we were something here for that might occur next financial year, why would that be of significance to the board deliberations? And the dates notwithstanding, eh?
Much money.
That's just a timing issue. There's not a legislative concern with regard to. Thank you.
Right, so moving on, that is all we have in the way of public speakers. Just to inform you, I did circulate an email that we have a new Parks and Reserves planner coming to see us around about 12:30, Robin Rawson. So just bear that in mind as we move through the agenda. All right, that speakers done. We'll move to confirmation of our minutes on page 8. Recommendation is that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board confirm the minutes of the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board meeting held on the 12th of December 2022, an extraordinary meeting held on the 24th of January 2023, a true and correct record. Do I have a mover?
Yes.
Thanks, Bruce. Seconder? I took Jane, thank you. Any corrections or amendments in the minutes? No, so I'll put that to the vote. Item 6.1. All those in support? Against? Carried. Thank you. Move on to item 7.1. Chairperson and members report. I'm going to move this with an addition of the word meeting after February 2023 and March 2023. That the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa, I will move that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board note the reports of February 2023 meeting from Chairperson Belinda Ward, Deputy Chair Lane Eyre, members Tyler, Bamba, Jane Hindle, Roddy, Hapiti Pihima for March 2023 meeting from Chairperson Belinda Ward, members Jane Hindle, Bruce Mills and Tyler Bamba. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
We're going to withdraw.
Yes, we are going to withdraw. Yeah, 6 and 7 will remove. So if we remove, so we have March 2023 meeting, and we will remove after that Chairperson Belinda Ward and members Jane Hindle, because those reports were duplicated. They were duplications of other items.
February meeting. The February meeting.
1 and 4. So I shall read that out again for you. That the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board note the reports for February 2023 meeting from Chairperson Belinda Ward, Deputy Chair Lane Eyre, members Tyler Bamba, Jane Hindle, Roddy Hapiti Pihima, and for March 2023 meeting from Bruce Mills and Tyler Bamba. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Jane. Sorry about that confusion. It was just the reports were duplicated, and our reports will be coming, the duplicated reports will be replaced with the March reports in the April meeting agenda. Moving on, any questions? I'll take these reports as read. Any questions on my report? Right, then I'll move on to page 24. Lane, any questions for Lane? Tyler,
I haven't observed it, but I believe it's close. And the other question I know that was looming, it will all be cleared up in time for Anzac.
thanks, Lane. Tyler, any questions for Tyler's report? James. Very busy there, Jane. It was a very lengthy report. Any questions for Jane? In that February report? No. So we'll move on to Roddy. Oh, so the next,
What is one? That was about the privet.
yes.
And this is a general comment.
Mm.
It's a major problem in Northern. You know, I've done.
You can get
People that have died from it.
the go to the meeting for manager for regional council.
Yep.
We're looking at changing the way they deal with not just feeds and groups, only so they can clear large scale villages in areas where reduce roads up. They're looking at establishing a way that you can clear that from something.
I would be the first time in my life. That's the end of the station.
You safe to say noxious plants have caused a reflect around our district, and Northern Regional Council need to step up and we need to see some action there. I'll ask Councillor Courtney to my right, and what part do we play in the noxious plants and weeds area from a district council perspective? Do we manage on their behalf, or
No.
is it no? So it sits with regional council. Yeah.
Not being these, I think. I didn't deal with this in the community, issue. I dealt with this in the each subdivision.
Yes.
Yesterday, we had a big discussion on sort of fix areas of that. But we wanted to a whole lot. Massive issue.
Mm.
So that carried on. Subdivision. A reason
It's a big health issue.
Something we could pursue as a board,
And
perhaps.
Can I just expand on that?
Yes.
Council obviously has a role to play in its own parks and reserves in managing pet and weed. There were a number of submissions that council received during the last LCP asking for us to cease and desist or use of glyphosate. Staff were investigating the use of steam. But this is a massive district, massive district. So whether that would be an affordable or practical solution will no doubt come back to us in time. Another matter that came up as part of my attendance at the Whangaroa Village Inc. meeting, which I go to, is roadside pest management, pest plant management. And we're only required to respond in relation to an approved pest and weed management strategy that Waka Kotahi have. Waka Kotahi do not currently have approved pest and weed management strategy. So we just need to be a bit mindful what we ask for too, with 2,500 kilometres of network, and I can't afford to look after the roads, let alone the weeds on the side of the road. So there's going to be a funding question coming up at some point about what's desirable to do, and what we can afford to do. That's not to say that regional council don't have a role. They're funded to do this work. We're not.
Thanks for that, Anne. Okay, Roddy, that's interesting. We'll be able to follow up on that, and from a forward perspective, perhaps we could combine over. We have, it's an issue in all of our subdivision areas, and as Anne said, right across the district. So perhaps it's something that I could take to the community board chairs discussions with the mayor next round to see what we can do collectively as a council. But it could be community board driven, yeah.
And Chair, can I ask Rosie about the tiles in Kawaka? Are you winning that battle?
I'm waiting for the council, everybody get that, so I can send them in a reply.
This is an interesting one. A member of the public in my wards had a very serious injury on tiles in Kawaka.
Yes, I recall that.
And so Roddy has championed. I understand that the community is split. It's some like the tiles, some don't like the tiles, and it's the issue. Is that correct?
Am I being heard? Well, it's in Radon Town. With the public, but it's. Might be the some loose one, the council need to go down and have a look.
This was about 6 months ago. This person basically broke their shoulder.
So I've been seeing them in basically 2 weeks.
A non-trivial injury on pavement. Just fixed.
Saying that, we have a couple of the public come forward in the. Read it, so the bridge. We need a permission for so they can do it, but like you see, the town is split. Someone to keep them in some date. And I don't even mind if they kept, but as long as it's safe. You think permission is safe.
There should be some ability to fund that in council through footpath renewals, perhaps. Cobblestones and the likes are really bad when it comes to maintenance. We have issues, you know, on the foreshore and Pai here, ongoing issues, and it's something to be mindful of when we are doing our town beautification and placemaking, that we actually are very careful not to use, you know, cobbles and things. I think it's probably better to use stamped concrete, things that don't move and shift, but definitely something that the community shouldn't be rushing to fix themselves. There should be an urgent RFS going in for that, and council should be dealing with it. It's a health and safety issue.
As I said, I think the issue that Roddy's encountered is that the community are going, we want our tiles, and the council is trying to fix them and kind of remove them and make them safe. And so you've got this battle that the council can't do right because the community want one thing and then
The biggest problem.
yeah, so I don't know how to fix that.
It's been 6 months since that trip, has it? It's quite a long time. It should have been.
The
Dealt
issue
to-
is they used the wrong time.
Hmm.
They used the clean ones, so we're not waiting to get slippery.
Oh, so it was a slip, not a trip. Hmm.
So they would all need to be switched out.
Gentleman had his shoulder replaced. It's non-fitting. Pretty upset. Nothing's been done.
Just on the footpath.
Yeah.
Not, I'm sort of thinking about that area, like
It's right.
when you go down to the library and the center and that. So it was on a footpath other.
Yeah, across the roads. By where the old ASB bank. JVR.
What is it, Roddy? JVR.
Shop. The area over there, but it's down a little bit further and then see where the tunnel start. The first 3 sets. Actually, you can pick them up like this. Because they're not stable.
So there will be RFSs for this?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah,
It's been done.
it would be helpful to get those numbers.
Yeah.
They on there?
I just wanted to mention it, because a member of my community
Yeah.
who had the accident explained to me. So Roddy's been chasing it up from the Kawakawa divisions.
Madam Chair, can I suggest that Roddy talks to Elizabeth Stacey? There are proprietary treatments that can be applied that make the surface slip resistant. And it may be that we just haven't asked the right person the right question. If the conversation is around replacing the tiles, rather than is there something that we can apply to the tiles that would make them better?
Yeah, wait, it's like this. It's, and none of it is actually.
Uneven as well.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
slippery.
Okay.
When you come down the last portion, then if you go over there, well, then you can see where it's not even straight, it's just a mess, really. It's another.
Nia and I both have been attending the disability action meetings, as has the deputy mayor, and I can tell you that footpaths consume about 95% of the agenda every single time. Because trip and slip hazards are of significant concern to the elderly, children and the disabled sector of our community. So it's a good conversation to have. Thank you.
It wasn't able-bodied person, it is now.
So
I've done
perhaps
it
you'd
myself.
like to contact Elizabeth Stacey. She is on our council website. She'll pop up. Kim can give you her details. She lives at Opua, so we can all give you her details. She lives at Opua, Roddy, and I'm sure we'll quite happily meet with you on site and discuss the issues.
That was the thing that I couldn't get over. The couple I talked to at the end of the day, I told them, I'll meet you there so I can show you where it occurred. It's all right. And he didn't tell me when he was going. But apparently he said he's gone down and had a look, but he hasn't actually made a resolution for it.
Okay. Right, moving forward. Any more questions for Roddy in this report? Right, so the next one on page 33 is duplicated, so we'll ignore that. Likewise with page 35, that's duplicated. 36 and 7. And we will go to Bruce. Any questions for Bruce on page 38? No. And Tyler, page
Can I
40.
comment on how it's here? It's a good report. It's a win. Now,
And you read it.
it's only taken me about 30 something years to get there. But I've actually got the plans for our walk bridge in.
Oh.
They've got the funding there. They've got money for beautification as well. And hopefully if that's up in the road, we should have it done by June this year. As a point of interest, they have shifted because of the so awkward to get onto the thing. They've shifted these markers slightly onto the road section. Both of them have been flattened, bunted by trucks, which indicates when there's two trucks going across that bridge, they're overlapping onto the footpath. And so anyway, that's just a fine thing of that, because we've at least got plan here. So I've just got to coordinate, gentlemen. It's a goer. Good God, yeah. So you people just remember, it takes about 30 years.
Well, it is not funny.
I just motion might have had something to do with that.
Yeah, may have too.
Yeah.
I won't believe it till I can go across the bridge.
I don't think we'll plan the community street party just yet, but that's fabulous. You will all be there when it happens, Bruce. That's a classic example of perseverance.
Oh my God, isn't it? The marathon.
It's definitely,
One of the worst
yeah.
ones, I think.
and I think Anne could top that with the Waipapa roundabout, but but we won't get into a competition phase here. Okay, that's excellent news, Bruce. That's wonderful. Okay, so any questions on that for Bruce? Right. Isla? Questions for Tyler? That's the last report. No?
Do you guys like in the
I think only people who live in the area got leavers.
Finals district council?
Mm.
No, I was only.
Around homes by some of the relatives, though.
No, around, you know, like something like this. No.
Just think like they would have made a mess of things. Yeah.
This one.
they've done the work. Next time. But, I mean, just, and Chair, so you know, that we've post stuff on Facebook, the most popular. The tune of 21,900 people engaged with that post about traffic today. It impacts people from Russell, Waterworth, Kawakawa, everybody. Yeah, so it's really important that we get the right information. If the information's gonna change, they need to let us know.
Yeah, better communication, right? So back to this report, I just, before we vote on this, I'd just like to thank the members for submitting such great reports, and to be able to see what you're doing is really informative. That's why we do reports, so we can see who you're meeting with, what we're progressing, and it's just been really, really great to see the effort that's gone in to doing these. And now you'll have your timeline schedule from Joshna on when your reports are due. So we'll try and put out a reminder, myself or Joshna will try and flick out a reminder to you maybe 2 or 3 days beforehand, just so you've got a little window to do them. Okay, so I'm going to put the recommendation as read, moved by myself, seconded by Jane. All those in support? Against? Carried, thank you. Now we do have 1 or 2 waiting here. I think we'll move to item 7.4. So Janine can get on with her day. So we've got the road naming application, item 7.4, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board, pursuant to Council's road naming and property addressing policy number 2125, name the private right of way retreat. We've amended that on request of the applicant to Retreat View, the second preference, Retreat View Lane, that is currently addressed at 22B Paihia Road, Paihia, as per map A4061147. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Lane. Seconder? Thanks, Tyler. Heard Jan speak earlier about her reasoning behind that. Questions? Any questions?
I just had a question if they rejected it because it had retreat lane and because of retreat road in Haruru, is it still going to cause any problem?
No,
We have online to take questions.
they have accepted it. Yeah. So it was the reasoning given was the distance. Although they're in different postal codes, they are both off State Highway 11, which runs between Kawakawa and Puketona Junction. So those 3 names were originally declined, and the 9 that were resubmitted on page 63 of the report were all approved as available items, but the preferred name for the applicant is Retreat View Lane, not Retreat Bay Lane, as in the recommendation. Quite often when these are put in, people don't always put their number 1 preference as the first name. They put a list of names. So the preference from the applicants is Retreat View Lane, and that's been accepted by Linz. Selena is online, the report writer, if you have any questions for her.
To clarify something.
Yes, Roddy.
Because she said that Hapu hadn't responded.
Correct. Hapu and iwi were notified and hadn't responded, and they haven't been responding for probably, gosh, Lane and Bruce, 12, 18 months. We haven't been receiving responses. We would definitely expect engagement with Hapu and iwi if it were a Māori name, and would be awaiting a response, as we are. You'll see the mix of report in the correspondence for the is it Waipapa? Yeah.
That's last.
Yeah.
One is.
No.
Some name that they've been a little bit concerned of. I prevented other resource consents from going through because I don't feel that they had appropriately sought the communication with the Hatus. And given that Ngāti Rahiri is just next door, Waitangi and the Manae there, why weren't it wasn't contacted? Because they've got you in line with the Mana Whenua directly.
Yes.
Selena, can you unmute yourself and respond to that?
Tēnā koutou, Madam Chair, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Selena.
Kia ora. It's been a long process in regards to working with the Māori iwi with in regards to these reports. We have had huge conversations with Te Hono, our internal group within the Whānau District Council, and we're still actually trying to move forward in regards to getting more consultation with our Māori iwi hapu out there. And it's a work in progress. So by the Mayor and by Councillor John Vesage in regards to setting up a committee within Te Hono so that we could have those conversations prior to these applications going up. In the meantime, unfortunately, I've been pushing through in the emails through to Te Hono to say, can we please have these names actually so they can have feedback in regards to all the road names that are coming forward to us. But unfortunately, it's not actually happening at the moment. And I've actually advised our applicants in regards to that, because ideally, if the applicants actually had these consultations before the application cancelled, but that's not actually happening at the moment, unfortunately.
Thanks, Selena. Does that answer your query, Roddy?
It answers my query that they've been speaking to Hono, but not actually to the hapu, just next door.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
so in the policy, Selena, do you want to address that in the policy?
Yeah, sorry. So I tried to actually reach out to the iwi hapu myself. I think it's probably because they don't actually know me. And I've been asking Te Hono if I'm able, because I write the reports for the road names. And for me, I'd be okay in regards to reaching out to our iwi hapu for these road names myself, but I've been trying to actually work beside Te Hono in doing that. But yeah, like I said, it's a work in progress. And like Te Hono actually reaches out to the hapu iwi because they have all the contacts to who to reach out for. I actually send my request to them at the moment, and then they actually, like for Te Heku or Kaikoe community boards and the Bay of Islands, they actually have their own contacts within Te Hono to actually reach out to those groups out in Arohe. So that's what's happening at the moment.
I can share, we've got applications there for months.
Yes, yes.
But
Yes, long time.
Can I encourage as well, going for English names with Māori names slightly more suitable than gonna be easier to come to.
So we have workshopped this, and the aim is, the desire within the room was to actually work a lot closer with hapu and iwi, and in fact to even we requested to the Te Hono team in that workshop, and I stand corrected, Lane and Bruce, I'm sure you were there, if I haven't got this right, but the thinking and the discussion behind it was that we even invite them to submit some lists of suggested names in our subdivision areas for the various hapu, so that if people would like to choose Māori names, that they actually don't have to go through the backwards and forwards process of the names being accepted by LINZ or not being approved or accepted by hapu. So at the moment, it's not mandatory to have to engage and consult with hapu iwi unless you are using a Māori name. Is that correct, Selena?
That's correct, but I've been actually advised, regardless on if it's a private or public road, Māori or Pākehā, we have to have that consultation with iwi.
Yes, yes. Yes, we do. No.
You can only provide the information pridefully, I no disrespect to anybody involved, but if people elect not to engage, then I'm not sure what else you do.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it's a process we can improve moving forward.
Also got people out there waiting, developers and that waiting, go through this process legitimately and wait. And we owe them a decision at the end.
It's not about the name. It's about the area, because that whole area is a huge historical record of its own. And the last thing I want to do is say, yeah, and then they turn around, they send me down the road and hammer me for it because I've just been around and around for some significant area to go through. And that's the thing. It's for me, it's my is just over the road. Ngāti Ko has been inside the final district council within their time frame, yet was never informed. He's the chairman for the Mara. And that's the part where kind of process has to be looked at. I hear what everyone's saying.
And I hear you too, Roddy, because it's a really important part of the process, and it's something that the Tohono team had accepted and agreed that we would. It's just from where I sit, I believe that the new road naming policy and the work, the information that and the decision making that came out of those workshops was that moving forward, the Tohono team would look to identify the various hapu and iwi to consult with in each of our subdivision areas. So I'm hoping that is still work in progress. Are you able to add to that?
As far as I know, that work has been completed to date. So they have identified the iwi hapu and got the contact people in place. So I don't think that's the holdup.
Okay.
And Chair, do we think that the lack of a response is because there is no response at all, i.e. the place is not significant? Or is that too risky an assumption to make?
We can't control, Chair, through the chair. I don't believe we can control response. All we can do is make sure that we have a robust system for notification and engagement. People elect not to respond or not to engage. I don't know that there's much we can do. And nor should we do.
No.
I mean,
And Chair, there's very much a track record of multiple emails that have gone through.
Yeah, with no response. So.
Response.
Well, I think we've had enough discussion around this. I'm going to put this to the vote. I'll reread it. Moved Lane, seconded Tyler, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board, pursuant to Council's road naming and property addressing policy number 2125, name a private right-of-way, Retreat View Lane, that is currently addressed at 22B Paihia Road, Paihia, as per map A 4061147. All those in support? Against? Against, Roddy? Yeah. So that's carried.
Wanted to be noted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For you to continue walking down the street.
Right, so move. Actually, we might take a coffee break, I think. 11:21, yes. Everybody feeling like a 10-minute break? Right, we're going to adjourn for 10 minutes. Thank you. We'll come back to item 7.2. Right, welcome back. We're on to item 7.2, appointments to management committees. This is a lengthy recommendation and I'm going to take it in one block. So we'll just go through each appointment relating to your subdivision areas and make the decisions as to who is going to. So I'll move that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board make appointments to management committees as detailed below. Do I have a seconder?
Yes.
Thank you, Bruce. Right, we'll start off with appointment number 1, Cherry Park House, which I think is in the Kitty subdivision.
Yes,
I could stand corrected. I'd have to. Carla, are you familiar with exactly where your subdivision line runs? And I if you say no, I quite understand.
Yes, sort of. It includes I don't think it includes Cherry Park House, but I think it sort of skirt around it and then come up towards sorry, it's that bay, that
A pizza.
penguin.
A pizza bay.
Sorry?
A pizza bay.
Scudder's Beach, sorry, yeah. Includes some of Scudder's Beach and then reverts back down to the zero. Yeah.
Yes, I don't want to drown in definition of boundary lines, but I did ask for, the previous board had some very large A5 maps, which clearly delineated with streams, roads, landmarks, intersections as to where our boundaries were. And since then, we've gone through a representation review and altered those boundaries. And of course, now we have Waipapa as a subdivision area. And I'm not even quite sure exactly where my boundary out Waimate North goes to. So there is a link there,
Yeah,
which
the link that Nick sent out is very clear.
yes. So perhaps we could recirculate that. Very, very difficult to see on the screen because when you blow it up, I did talk Bruce through his Taupo Bay boundaries in the north, which have changed. When you blow up the screen, you lose the big picture. So it's very difficult to see the continuity of line around where they operate. So
it's actually in the GIS, so you can actually go into the map rather than.
Yes.
So that's the best place. I'll send the link out to you.
We did all have that link some time ago, but I did have difficulty myself navigating the boundary line to blow it up to see where every tree and road was. It was not that easy to navigate.
Forward this to everybody, and it's got a link on it.
Thanks, Jane. You've got that. You've got that there because that was sent. That was sent some time ago.
Yep.
So I have been told no to maps at this stage.
We'll
We'll get there. Right, so we think Cherry Park House is in Kitty subdivision.
My interest personally in Cherry Park House is that sometimes goes and the rest of it goes, I think was it's a wonderful reserve that can go from Waipapa up to
Point of order.
No. So I'm just being.
You're tagging your next project member here. So Amy Lane, who would like to be appointed to that? Are you happy, Amy, to attend that in an advisory capacity? Thank you. Moving on to Kawakawa Memorial Library Museum. Roddy? Sorry. Waihiwa Memorial Hall, I get that for my sins. Russell Town Hall, Jane?
It needed maintenance, yes.
Got money.
Simpson Park, Roddy?
2 years time, yes.
That in Simpson Park will be good. We have Simpson Park.
Yes.
And so it's always been part of the road being set within the community wood board set.
Yes. Excellent. So you're happy to do that. Totoro North Hall. Bruce? Waipapa Hall.
Please.
Tyler. Whangaroa Memorial Hall and Whangaroa Township Hall. Bruce? Both, Bruce? Bledisloe Domain. It's myself. Bio Domain, Bruce. Paukaua Domain and Reserves, Roddy. Maramaku, Jane.
Been there, done that. Got a t-shirt.
Russell Sports Ground, Jane.
Been there, just at the AGM.
Onakura Waipapa Cemetery.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to speak to.
Yes.
It's actually the Pangari Cemetery. It's not Onakura Cemetery. It's officially gazetted in 1934 as the Pangari Cemetery, managed by a voluntary trust of which I chair. I've looked after that cemetery for over 30 years. We don't have meetings. We don't even have AGMs. I draft up some meetings, I circulate them electronically, everybody says yes and send them back and I file them with the council. I am the sextant. I manage all the deaths and the burials and the interments on the site.
And a succession plan for you now?
There's no succession plan from me. It is a, I'm not.
Are you going to end up, do you have a vested interest in this?
No, by saying that, I don't know why it's on here, and I don't, I mean, put Tyler on me, but I'll never ever put on me. Right?
That's
yeah, in my facetiousness, it is a massive amount of work that volunteers, and the next one is Tauai Cemetery.
I've already had
and it's the same for all of our sports and all of our that these amazing volunteers like myself do on behalf of for the community. And by taking it off the council, there's no cost to the ratepayer for this. And I just wanted to acknowledge that I don't think we recognise just how much our volunteers do and how much they commit of their lives and their time to making this district a better place. And I've jumped down a rabbit hole. Before I point of order myself, I'll stop.
I'd like to support that, Madam Chair, because I had the same conversation about the Tauai Cemetery. Pointed out that previously it was run by council and now they're doing all the work themselves and they don't get any funding for it. Yeah, so these people do these things. It's like the Gurukha, where the whānau look after that. These cemeteries in Gurukha are looked after by our
And are you happy? No, excuse me, Kelly. Are you happy and to step down from that, or as a board member, would you like to continue?
I'm a trustee. I'm accepted by a separate legal statutory instrument, so I'm there till I die.
Tyler?
Troy can let me know.
Thank you. Hawaii, Jane?
Yep, me.
Ohio Swimming Pool Committee?
Yep.
And Whangaroa Rivers Co-Management, Bruce.
Yes.
So of the 15 that are community even to that in our subdivision, or are there more that aren't into that or ever?
So in answer to your question, Kelly, myself and a staff member put this list of appointments together because I was keen to see the appointments so we could get on in our communities sitting on these committees in an advisory capacity. So it may be if there are omissions on there that any of you would like to see brought forward to the next agenda, feel free to submit to me and we'll organise additional appointments. We have had in the past some quite interesting debate over what we fund and don't fund in cemeteries, and particularly in Jane's ward area. And so it can set a precedence if we start funding mowing and things like that. It's probably better that it goes back onto council's operational maintenance schedule. It's not desirable that we as a community board or that the council wants to start forking out money. If the volunteers aren't happy to do the job or don't have the equipment to do the job, then council must pick it up and do it. So there are some historical issues here, and Tauai, Maramaku, that area, we have had some historical issues and we have had some debates in the past. So we do need to be careful. Kim, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, definitely. Through the chat. There obviously are more cemeteries in there
Yes.
than just it's one. So is it just that these two looks of it have approached council for a community board rep? So if I can approach
Yeah.
they've got a cemetery. So why is it just the these?
Yeah.
Like the church that used to still in
Yeah.
I don't know about the others, but I can speak to Pungari Cemetery. They're actually owned by the council. And a trust was established that looks after the management of the cemetery on behalf of the council. So I think it would go back to the land tenure. Just one other thing that I'll add while I'm speaking is every year I get sent a letter from the Far North District Council requiring to furnish how many new customers we have, permanent residents. And now they've started asking for audited accounts. So I'm not supplying audited accounts, and I haven't been smacked yet, but the day I do get smacked is the day I hand the whole thing back to the council, holeless bowlers. So I would ask people to be mindful of what kind of burden that they're placing on our volunteers. And especially a cemetery, which mine, might have 1 or 2 customers a year. Annual audit accounts can run to $5,000. Who's going to pay for that? So I think we need to get a little bit realistic with some of our paperwork.
Thanks, and it's the same request with our halls. It's the information given should suffice. If there is a board member sitting on the committee overseeing and in an advisory capacity, these audited accounts shouldn't be required in such great depth, even though you are dealing with money in a situation with the hall and you're not necessarily with the cemetery. But my recollection historically is that these particular cemeteries have probably made it to our list because I recall the community board funding them for something or other in the past, and that's why they have come to our attention and are on there. And it's been our way of actually acknowledging the volunteers in those particular isolated communities, often where the people that live there are happy to mow it or weed it. So there is a bit of history, and we will take this on a case by case. We're not out to actually develop a whole cemetery list of cemetery committees that we will sit on. That's not the intent of this. So if there's anything that needs to be addressed, we can deal with that moving forward. In the meantime, I think we'll just acknowledge these reserves. That is a reserve annual one in the status is it's down here. It's actually they're referred to as reserve committees for the cemetery. Yeah.
It was the site of Kerikeri's first school. People don't know that.
Story to be told there.
Yes.
It's a very important one. I didn't know that. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we have this number of appointments here. Everybody's happy to put their hand up to play a role and in these community or these district facilities, and I will put this to the vote. Moved myself, seconded by Bruce. All those in support of these appointments as per recommendation? Against? That's carried. Thank you. We now move on to page 45. At the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board appoint member as its representative on the Disability Action Group. Do I have a mover?
I'll move that. Yeah.
Thanks, Em. Have a seconder? Bruce. And a mover of Lane Eyre. Discussion around this?
I'd just like to say that Lane's been on the Disability Action Group for a while. He is an incredibly valuable member of the team, high performing member of the team. and highly valued member. of
Oh.
the team.
That's being recorded, so.
I just want to know what did he buy you lunch?
Lane, are you happy to continue in this role? Is anybody else interested in the role?
I'm quite happy at some point to take over long. I wish to sort of apprentice in with the day. Yeah, that's the.
Thank you. Yeah, Amy and Tyler may wish to consider showing an interest moving forward, and bearing in mind that they are happy to have you take anybody along with you from the community board. I think that that's a really good idea, because it is quite a meaty topic, isn't it? And it's quite
incredibly important.
very interesting.
And we're just in the middle of our regional disability strategy work. And this ultimately leads to things like engineering standards and guidelines for our footpath and toilets, which the community board has a high degree of interest in. So please, just because we're going to put Lane on there, anybody can come. We are open.
And there is a lot to be learned, believe you me, and it does determine the way we think. In fact, more so, I think, with the ageing population now moving forward, we have to consider this in everything we do. So.
That's what I'm going to do. This is the first.
Well, I had it much closer.
Through the chair, I will tell you that it's my attendance on that committee that probably pushed the pathway on the domain. Not in a thing, but it was in my mind that we needed a wider path, to the point that I think I measured 2 disability schools so they could pass and have a fight going beside.
And it's that sort of knowledge that's invaluable, and also to the board in our decision-making processes. So I would encourage, either of you to actually take an interest in that moving forward. So Lane, if you're happy with that appointment, okay. I will move that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board appoint member Lane Eyre as its representative on the Disability Action Group, moved by Anne, seconded by Bruce. For those in support? Against? Carried. Move to item 7.5 on page 73. That the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board note the project report received from our Kitty Kitty Charitable Trust, Northland Chess Championship 2022, Rotary Club Bay of Islands Rotary Colour Run Kaihia, and Kairos Connection Trust Busy Bees. Do I have a mover? Jane? Seconder? Amy? Yeah. Amy, thank you. You'll note that these are in the very back of your additional information papers, which are not numbered. Sorry, but they're. What's that, Catherine?
My apologies, I did not realise the numbering was not updated.
That's okay.
It's page 95 of the additional information. So. Madam Chair, may I just?
Yes, comment. Yep.
I read the report for Rotary Club Bay of Islands and noted that they made a surplus, which was actually almost the amount that we gave them. So the funding was required, and they didn't actually acknowledge the community board funding during the event anyway. Now, I know Rotary do really good work. I have no reason to feel that they did not do this in with genuine intent. So I wonder, would it be possible to suggest that perhaps they use those funds for another community project that acknowledges the community contribution, so that we actually do get some value for the maybe $2,000 of it?
No, that's not possible. We have funded them, but certainly we can take that into consideration in future with future applications. Is that correct, Kim? And I did also acknowledge the fact that that they noted that they hadn't acknowledged the community board, whereas they had acknowledged other sponsors.
Their website and their Facebook and everything, other sponsors were mentioned.
Yes. Lane.
Through the chair, and I take the risk of being. we are going to approach Rotary with regards to the domain. Asked if there was
Right.
That's about Rotary or Rotary.
Perhaps that discussion could be raised by the chair of the working party domain group when they come to do some landscaping, that perhaps they contribute some funding towards that, but valid point.
Madam Chair, with Catherine here as well, I wonder whether it's worth just double checking that when they apply for funding, they are told that, you know, they can work with us because we have Facebook and stuff like that. And remind them to engage.
Kevin and I both voting our kids, and we do send them your logo.
Yes.
Get that before they even up.
And can you remind them that we are there to support their events and we can do so on social media if they.
And I guess that raises the other comment too, is a Kairos Connection Trust we have funded on several occasions, and I'm not sure how they acknowledge us either. It's not noted, Catherine. We don't actually get any acknowledgement, and I am mindful of the fact that it's not an event, but it would be nice to have some acknowledgement for our ongoing support and funding their raw materials. Okay, any more discussion around those reports? I'll put that to the vote. Moved by Jane, seconded by Amy. All those in support? Against? Carried. Right, we'll move to 7.6 on page 84. So the funding applications, I'll take these individually. Yes.
The figure of 89,000 remaining.
Sure.
56,000.
You will note on page, in the report, it states that we have 89,122. If you refer to our balance, actually in the community fund balance on page 125, you will see as at the end of January, we only had 56,165 and 19 cents. So please bear that in mind. We have, including today, we have 4 meetings left till the end of the financial year. Excellent.
I will include like the tracking sheet. My tracking sheet that I started before, I believe last year that I used to include my project funding application report. I'm going to go with that.
Thanks for that, Catherine. And yes, as we're coming toward the end of the year, it would be really good to have an accurate, exact balance of what we've got and what hasn't been uplifted. And if we do, bearing in mind that applicants don't actually have to submit their reports until they have completed the project or the event, I would like to see some way around getting progress reports moving forward. And if it's possible, perhaps by June, we could request progress reports, because some of these events in particular, you know, and through this environment with COVID and the disruptions with the cyclones, things are being postponed and pushed forward. So I would like to see some clarification. And quite often we get return applicants annually, or annual applicants, and they only submit their report at the time that they're making the next annual report, and they're supposed to do it within a couple of months. So I think we need to really tighten up there with our funding and maybe take that into consideration as to why they haven't submitted, if Catherine or if the staff have actually notified them to follow up. And I understand quite often that committees and marae don't always meet regularly enough to fit in with our timeframes. If that's the case, I'd really appreciate that feedback. Right, thank you.
And Madam Chair,
thanks for pointing that out.
so if we have we're going to be pushing more on social media with funding for reporting and funding that we're doing. I think we'll see increased applications for funding from community groups, which is good. So if these groups are coming year and year and year and year, you know, they will need to be competitive and do it well.
Yes.
And report back and use the funding.
It would be good for us to workshop this, being a new board, because I'm also very aware in the past, as most of you would be in your communities, that those that are the doers are often not great on the administrative side of things and the paperwork. And they either need support or we need to acknowledge the fact that that's not their forte and look at what they actually do and the community good that they do, when often they're not experts. At
Sometimes
sports groups. Yeah.
Sports group help.
Yes.
Because we can do that. We can tell them what to apply for.
And perhaps it's something we could look at going out into the community more and having a day in the library in our areas or something like that to assist people. Okay, so moving on to our first one, 7.6A, Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves the sum of $5,812 plus GST if applicable be paid from the board's community fund account to Te Reo o Ngāti Hine Charitable Trust for the costs of the stage and audio hireage for the 2023 Te Ahureka o Ngāti Hine Festival to meet the following community outcomes: communities that are healthy, safe, connectable and sustainable, and proud, vibrant communities. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Roddy. Thank you, Bruce. You will note that the request was initially for $15,000 and it has been submitted on the Community Grant Fund application form. That was actually pushed through to our February meeting, which was cancelled, and hence it stayed on that same form and not the community grant form. The request for 15,000, the recommendation is for 5,812. You have additional information there. Is there any questions or queries, discussion on this? As Roddy, as mover, would you like to go first?
So, one of the things that I'd like to see that in the complete subdivision that sits within the territory, the entire thing of Ngāti. And as an applicant said, I've done my own little research on the project. I found that it's actually it's the biggest event that we run out of our subdivision. And the huge support from both community and Hapu right around the subdivision supports it completely. I've actually never seen so many things put underneath a kaupapa, and I found one single negative. I said, had to talk to some of the schools. The reason why I talked to some of the schools because I found out that the schools actually kaupapa, the Rumaki Māori classes, they always need performers. And so to hear how excited the children are, then you could certainly see that was spreading around my whole ward. And of course, we've been through some heavy things like all the other communities. We say is the aspect of the mental health and the spiritual well-being. It's all in there. And from what I can see, this event, it amplifies not just as opposed to the state of the Hapu, but the community as well. And one thing that I really note is that on a Hapu, I actually like working in the council. And so when we see these kaupapa community and Hapu are actually willing to work with us, I think it should be encouraging it and supporting it. When I look at it, these feasibility projects have been these special projects. If this just happens to be one of them. The whole atmosphere that surrounds it, it doesn't just uplift our Hapu, but uplifts my whole subdivision communities at the same time. There's not one of them has turned around and said a negative thing, and they all say the same thing. It's about creating a relationships, great relationships when it comes to our subdivisions or our communities are really important. They allow us to, suppose, sit down with them and build that level of trust. Yes.
Kia ora, Roddy. Bruce, so seconder, would you like to comment?
I've seen past reports of the past ones. I've got to admit, I've never managed to get there yet. I've intended to, but this looks like it's been amazing. And it's just as you say, it brings the whole community together and it's open to the public, which is a big thing. And yeah, so yeah, that's why I'm supporting it.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair,
Hello.
can I just ask what I guess this is probably for Catherine, what the, I guess like the idea behind just funding the stage and audio? Oh, okay.
Through the chair, originally this was my report, but then I changed jobs, so. So the original idea behind just funding the stage and the audio coverage, that is the main component that would be required for the day for participants to be able to perform and the audience to hear. Knowing that you had limited funding available and you could just February, but that there was going to be further funding rounds coming up and applications for consideration. I did just want to make sure that we funded the main infrastructure needed.
Yeah.
And then if you were to top up on so.
Madam Chair, I note they have a fairly healthy balance sheet, so I asked the question of would it still go ahead? So that they weren't reliant on our funding to make it happen. So they can have the shortfall themselves.
So there is also, this isn't the only activity that they will run the year. There'll be other activities and events that take place too. So while yes, it is great to have a healthy balance, we don't want to be running our organisations down to zero just so that they can apply for something. They need to have that healthy to be able to continue.
So little left in our funding, which is
Yeah, so you'll see in the additional information, the Beltec quote there. This is the amount recommended Kim has actually based on the stage and the audio, which comes to 5,812.
do the GST, Kim, because they're not registered for GST, and so we should put GST on. We should, yeah.
Any other discussion around this? Right,
I'm just, Madam Chair,
Yes.
Chair, if I may. And I'm probably mixing this up, but is that the only charitable trust that's operating this particular activity?
For this activity, I would say yes. We have had, I queried that in my mind too, Lane, because I recall funding Oturia Marae other events there, and I think in fact, I did a little bit of digging there with Catherine, and we actually did fund 6,500 back in 2017, but I think that was perhaps a different event, maybe a different name, because this is only the second time that this particular event, is that correct, Shane? It's only the second time that this particular event has been held biannually? 2008, okay, beg your pardon. So I'm not sure how many times we have funded it, but we definitely have supported it in the past. So, any other? No, I'm going to put this to the vote then. So we have $5,812 towards Te Reo Ngāti Hine Charitable Trust for the cost, the stage and audio hireage, moved by Roddy, seconded by Bruce. All those in support? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, the next one is actually, this is a reallocation of funds. So the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves the funding grant at the meeting of June 2022 to Far North Land Search and Rescue for the lease of 218 Wera Road, Kirikiri, for the lease of premises for 1 year to be used towards the lease of 2 years, as the organisation was able to negotiate a lower lease rate after the funding was granted. Do I have a mover? I have Tyler and Jane. Tyler, would you like to speak to this first as mover?
I think it's an excellent organisation. They're obviously doing great work. They're there when we most need them, and I just think it's cool.
Second to Jane.
Yes, I believe this is an easy ask. They're not actually asking for any more money. They're very churlish to ask for it back. Particularly on good work that they do, they're excited.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I think you church from time to time.
Well, I know you can, but I'm telling you not to be.
I have to say that Far North Land Search and Rescue, when they came to the board, we had quite a debate around this and the lease with Far North Holdings, and we did ask them to go away and look at discussing with Far North Holdings more community good in relation, and so they actually have done that and worked very hard at it, so hats off to them, and I think they actually deserve the support of the board for doing that. And because we've transitioned boards, you wouldn't have been aware of the history behind that, but I think that they've worked really hard, and I'm sure they'll come back and present to us again at some stage. Any more questions around this one? So I'll put it to the vote. Moved by Tyler, seconded by Jane. All those in support? Against? Carried. Thank you. Next we have Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approve the sum of $638 plus GST if applicable be paid from the board's community fund account to Coast Cat Rescue for the costs associated with the Easter fundraiser, excluding the costs for the refreshments and tea, coffee and cake. Do I have a mover? Jane, to get it on the table. Thanks, Tyler. Discussion around this. They did request the full amount, and you'll note that the recommendation is for $638, 50% of the total project cost. Do make out of policy decisions, but in this case, the recommendation is for 50%. Okay. No discussion around this. This is a branch of Bay of Islands Animal Rescue Trust, which we fund.
Madam Chair. I guess my real concern with this is that it's a fundraiser. They're going to be charging $2 per person to come along. To then raise more than what we're even giving them, they have to have quite a massive turnout. I mean, one is if we would just be better off offering the funding for the neutering of cats rather than the funding itself, because that would make more sense to me.
Right, that's Catherine. Yes, Josh, no, Catherine. Oh, Catherine.
Sorry, Chair. So this is a slightly complicated one because Coast to Coast Cat Care has from Bay of Islands Animal Rescue. So Bay of Islands Animal Rescue is purely doing the dogs and other animals, and Coast to Coast Cat is all of their cat ones, and they're split out because it was getting too big for one. So the funding Bay of Islands Animal Rescue has been mostly on the dogs, and Coast to Coast Cat Rescue has been fundraising on your own to get that to do all the rescuing you're doing. I do know that they are looking to come back to this board in the new financial year. Funding applications towards the neutering and things like that. This is just to try and get something in the interim that you get from the community as well. That also gets the word out there.
Thanks for that, Catherine.
Yeah, raising awareness more than fundraising.
Yeah.
Perhaps help with marketing.
Any more discussion around this? Well, we'll see what the appetite is like. I'll put it to the vote. Moved by Jane, seconded by Tyler, that we approve the sum of $638 to be paid from the board's community grant account to Coast Cat Rescue Raise your hands if you're in support. 1, 2, 3. Against? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is lost. Thank you. Those against like it recorded. So we have Hancourt, Bruce Mills, Amy, and Tyler.
Yourself?
Thank you. Against. I'm also against. Thank you. Right, so we'll move on to our final application. Yeah, the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves the sum of $4,373 plus GST if applicable be paid from the Board's Community Grant Fund account to Yellow Eye Limited for the venue hire of the Turner Centre, including tech fees, tutor and show and mileage to meet the following community outcomes. Now, I'll just move this to put this on the table, but I feel. Do you have a seconder?
Yeah.
Thanks, Amy. So I did indicate to the speaker that perhaps it might be best that we leave this to lie on the table. Is everybody happy with that, or would you like to have a discussion around this?
Yeah, I think it's just important that we wait because schools are really busy and they have to timetable it in and we have to, you know, firm up a date before we know it's going to go.
Agree. I think,
Yeah.
I think we need
Okay.
concrete dates.
Yeah.
Right.
Better off waiting.
So I'll move that we leave that to lie on the table. Amy, are you happy to second that? Okay. All those in support? Against? Carried. Do we need to put a substantive motion for that? No. Same mover and seconder, so. Oh, well done. So that's our funding applications for today. Done for time. So move on to the item 8.1 on page 115. This is a report that led to a little bit of confusion. We now have two very precious Moreton Bay figs in Russell. This report was to be about the Long Beach Moreton Bay fig, and the report that is attached to this, you will note, is actually the Strand Moreton Bay fig. So this is another one that we are going to leave to lie on the table. So I'll put the recommendation that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board receive the report Long Beach Road Moreton Bay Fig Tree Report Update. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Jane. And leave this to lie on the table and refer it back to the report writer. So next April, we will get two reports. We will get the background report or the summary for the update of the Strand, which is actually included in the report. So that's already in the public arena for those that have been eagerly waiting for that since October. And we will have the correct accompanying attachments for the Long Beach Moreton Bay fig tree to us. So have you got that, Joshna?
Yep.
Will you have that on the table?
I'll
refer it back to the report, right?
Yep.
So I move that. Jane, are you happy with that? So going to put that. All those in support? Against? Carried. I think we'll just do the statement of financial performance, 8.2 on page 122. Things gone a little bit of a roll, and I am mindful that we do have Robin Rawson coming to speak with us at around 12:30. So item 8.2, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board received the report Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Statement of Financial Performance Activities by Ward for the period ending 31st of December 2022. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Lane. Seconder?
Yes.
Bruce, thank you. I have had apologies from the staff member who presented to us, Jane, a few months ago, that the updated format of this is coming. It's just that they have been busy working on the annual plan at the moment. So,
Training.
yeah, it's in train, and there is a good explanation on page 124 of the breakdown of the operational capital and expenditure to give a little bit of guidance for you.
If you have a forecasting surplus,
Is it in the explanation? We don't have the report writer here to speak to it. So hopefully we'll have that new format through for April and the report writer can speak to it, be available and they'll speak to it.
Have the report writer
So
available to speak to it,
for the next meeting, yes, yes,
or just in general.
yes, yeah. You know that, Joshna, please? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so moved by Lane, seconded by Bruce. All those in support of receiving it? Thank you. Against? Carried. Page 125, 8.3. That the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board received the report entitled Statement of the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board Community Fund Account as at 31st of January 2023. Do I have a mover? Rose, seconder, Lane. As of today, you'll note that that amount will diminish even further. So we actually have been quite low on applications of late. It's not normal for us to receive so few requests, but that could just be with the cyclone issues of late and communities not really, being.
and Chair, there's a question I have for Catherine.
Yes.
There's a refund from the Heritage North tour.
Yes.
So that presumably is definitely coming.
Okay.
So when do we kind of move them into actuals? That's a kind of thing. Whereas some are not used. Is it possible to kind of know which are definitely going to be coming out with that work? Thank you. Where they're at. So we can look for.
Yes.
Couple of conversations, and not just with James. They had issues because the containers had gone up in price. So they were just still sorting that one out, but I need to go back to them.
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, I think we need to start putting a little bit of pressure on
yeah,
some of these funds that have been approved and not uplifted to see where they're at. And again, back to my reference of we need progress reports if they're not going to be uplifting those funds as we're running out of months.
Some of these bets seem to have been and gone, you know.
Yes. Right, any more discussion around that? Questions for Catherine? No? Moved by Bruce, seconded by Lane. All those in support? Against? Carried, thank you. Finally, we have our action sheet. Not much on there, which I'm delighted to say. There is one or two that have dropped off, which will come in my next report in April. Okay, great. Deal with these in order. Thanks, Jane. So firstly, I put the recommendation that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board receive the report Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board Action Sheet Update. I'll move. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Lane. Now that first one, Lane, is you, light?
Yes.
The lighting on the domain.
My meeting with Geneva England was cancelled, not by me. And we have the money, we have locations, I'm talking about bowling clubs, so Just a matter of getting with Jeanette to schedule another meeting for.
Thank you. And you have spoken with the bowling club, haven't you? Yeah.
Stefan Brown. Who likes to come.
And then we move on to Cherry Park House, which is also work in progress. I haven't had any updates or anything.
No.
I did have a call from Frank Owen, who was on the committee, wanting to know who the appointment was. And I said, we will inform him after today, so that he can meet with whoever the appointee is and just have an update on where they're at as a committee. But they're all very happy people and they are functioning very well. And it's just a case of knowing what they're up to moving forward and knowing what council's up to in relation to the health and safety issues with the building. So at some stage, either you can contact Frank Owen or he will get in touch with you and so organise a time that suits you to meet with him. Okay. That's Amy to follow up. And Jane, you would like to add?
So from resolution 2021/9, which was dated February 2021, was a resolution about strategy and policy framework being developed, funding community facilities across the environment. Now it's referred to the fact that the first draft is completed, but I've seen no follow-up as the final policy. But the reason I raise it is that I attended the Russell Sports AGM and they are really struggling with funds. They've had the $5,000 grant that they've had for the last 10 years or more. The cost of their insurance has gone up, the cost of hormone has gone up, the grant is simply not enough to cover their needs. And I think a lot of the community facilities that the council that's run maybe in that position. So I'd like to just know where this is at and what has happened to it. Final report. Then the second one, there is an update on it, which is resolution 2020/111. Reviews the public access to Tackle Point Okiato via the Unport the roads. That is still in train. It is an ongoing process, so it still needs to be there. In French, was not that's starting. Good. That's me.
Okay, so we'll add those two back on the action sheet. So 2021/9 from the 4th of February 2021. Is that correct? So you want the resolution from strategy and policy.
If we could just be formed the outcome. Noting that I've had representation from community groups playing their grants.
Yes, I think that's where council was getting into dangerous territory, looking at the annual plan issues of actually removing some of those grants, is that this is going to come back and bite them in the sense that they've had no increases. Most, I mean, you know, the Kaya Rugby Club and the likes, they've had no increase and they haven't been coming to the board and asking for additional funding. So a lot of these community volunteers and clubs are actually, you know, sucking it up and paying the additional costs and things themselves and are struggling. So it'll be good to get, an update on that, definitely.
And this one just needs to keep going, this 2020.
Yes, so the second one, Joshna, is 2020/111, which is, did you have a date on that? I think I have in my next report.
The 26th of January, the encroachment officer met with the landowner.
The original.
Oh, the original.
No,
It's 5/11.
I'll follow that up.
Yeah.
5/11.
So it's Papu Point, Okiato, which is work in progress and it's an encroachment issue. Mhm. Thank you. So would you like to move, Jane, that we add?
Like to move that we add those two that have fallen off. Back on again.
Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Amy. So I'll put that so we've now added to that added to the original. So you're putting an amendment actually to add to the receiving the report, add to the action sheet. Moved Jane, seconded Amy, that we add those two as discussed back onto the action sheet that have fallen off. All those in support? Against? Carried. Now I need to put that as substantive.
I just added this as
Just
a new
added
motion.
it. Okay. Thank you very much. So that's been added as a new motion. And that's carried. So that's the end of our action sheet and the end of our formal business. I would just like to note Robin Rawson is in the room. Welcome, Robin. And we are now going, I'll ask for a karakia and we will close the formal meeting and break for lunch.
Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, o te atapau o tō kāta, araki, I utraki. Aroha o te kātas, pipina tai. Wairu tātou, aki.
Kia ora, Jane, thank you. Thank you,